So in this video we're going to look at adding and subtracting fractions. We'll start off with more straightforward ones and then move on to more complicated ones. The most important thing when you're adding, subtracting a fraction is that the bottom number of the fraction, the denominator, it has to be the same in each fraction. So for example, 3/5 plus 1/5 is going to give us 4/5. Notice we don't add the bottom number, the denominator, only the top number, the numerator. Sometimes it can be quite straightforward. So for example, if we have a half plus a quarter, the bottom number's different. We have to make them the same. So to do this, we ask ourselves if the smaller number can go into the bigger number. Does it divide into it exactly? Well, it does. 2 goes into 4 twice. So we can use 4 as our common denominator. Now, the second fraction, the quarter, stays in the same place there, and it doesn't change. But we have to change the half into quarters. So how do we do that? Well, what do we multiply 2 by to give us 4? That would be 2. What I do to the bottom of a fraction, I have to do to the top. So I'm going to multiply that by 2 as well. And those are called equivalent fractions. So 2/4 plus 1/4 gives us 3/4. Sometimes that can't happen. We could, for example, have a third add a fifth. So does the smaller number go into the bigger number? Does the 3 go into the 5? No, it doesn't. Well, in this case we have to change both denominators so that we can get them to be the same. In that case, we have to think about what is the smallest number that 3 and 5 go into, and that would be 15. More often than not, you can get that number just by multiplying those two together, but that doesn't always work. So now that we've got the lowest common denominator, we have to then change the fractions into those. So 3 multiplied by 5 gives me 15. So 1 multiplied by 5 gives me 5. And that's the equivalent fraction. 5 times 3 gives me 15. 1 times 3 gives me 3. So 5/15 add 3/15 gives me 8/15. The same is true when subtracting. We do exactly the same thing. The only difference is instead of adding the top two numbers, we subtract the top two numbers. So if we had 4/5, subtract 3/10. Again, the denominators are different, but does the smaller one go into the bigger one? Yeah, it does, so that's fine. We can use the bigger one for a common denominator. Then we want to change 4/5 into something over 10. So 5 times 2 gives me 10. So 4 times 2 gives me 8. That's already in tenths, so that's fine, we don't need to change it. So 8/10 subtract 3/10 gives me 5/10. Which brings up another thing in fractions. We always simplify an answer if we can. 5/10 is the same as 1/2. So that's the basics. You may be in a situation where you have to add mixed numbers together. So it's not just got a fraction part, it's got a whole part as well. To do this, there's basically just one more step. We have to change the mixed number into a top-heavy fraction, an improper fraction. To do that, we take the bottom number, times it by the whole number, and add the top. So 4 times 3 is 12, add 1, 13. And that's always over the original denominator. Now if you think about it, a fraction is just a division, top divided by bottom. 13 divided by 4. 4 goes into 13 3 times with a remainder of 1. So it works. 3 times 2 is 6, add 2 is 8 thirds. So we have different denominators. Does the small number go into the big number? No, it doesn't. So we're going to have to think of the smallest number that both 3 and 4 go into. It's just about knowing your times tables. So that number would be 12. So we're going to have to change 13 over 4 into something over 12. Well, 4 times 3 gives me 12. 13 times 3 is 39. 3 times 4 gives me 12. 8 times 4, 32. Adding those together, 39 plus 32, 71 over 12. If you want, you can turn the top-heavy fraction back into a mixed number, one like that. And remember, it's just top divided by bottom. So how many 12s go into 71? Well, that would be 5. 5 12s are 60, which gives us a remainder of 11, and the denominator stays exactly the same.